That's crazy. First things first, this thing is crazy thin and light, and you really feel that thinness once you open it up, and it is paper thin. Like, look at that. All right, just for some size comparisons to show how insane this is the S25 Ultra. As you can see, the width is a little narrower on the Z Fold 7, but the thickness when closed is actually almost identical. And the Fold 7 is actually a few grams lighter than the S25 Ultra, which is pretty crazy. And once you do open it up, the thickness difference is pretty crazy. Now, if you do count the camera bump, of course, it's a lot thicker, but just holding it, you're not really gonna deal with that camera bump, so that doesn't really matter. Now look at that, that's crazy. Now, I never thought the S25 Ultra was that chunky of a monster, but now compared to this foldable, this feels fat. Now, in terms of screen size, it is narrower than the S25 Ultra, but it is comparable to other phones like Sony Xperia's, where the screens are narrower. This feels a lot like that, but since it is narrower, I actually think this is more comfortable to hold one-handed compared to the regular S25 Ultra. Now, when we're talking screen size compared to a tablet with the screen open, here's how it looks like next to the iPad mini 7. So it is wider on portrait mode, but it is shorter. And in landscape, it is a pretty big of a difference, but really the crazy part is how thin this is. Compared to the iPad mini 7, it is almost half the size. So let's actually turn on a YouTube video and see how big the size difference is between an iPad mini 7 and a Galaxy Z Fold 7. So in portrait mode, a 16:9 video on the Fold 7 is actually bigger than the iPad mini 7, but in landscape orientation, the iPad mini 7 is still a lot bigger for video playback. And even if we turn the orientation for the Fold 7, it is a little bigger, but it's not as big as the Mini 7. But it's pretty close. Like, this still gives you a ton of screen real estate. And this is how it looks next to an S25 Ultra. You definitely get a lot more screen real estate in full screen in landscape mode. And you get a little bit more space in portrait orientation, but it's really not that much compared to a regular phone. But the big difference maker is the multitasking, since the aspect ratio here is now like the size of two phones kind of put together. So it's basically two S25 Ultras put together side by side. So I think it's gonna be pretty great for multitasking. So honestly, the biggest thing that was keeping me away from book style foldables was the thinness and the weight. So I actually had the Fold 2 a couple years ago, but the hinge was huge and it was a little too heavy, especially when I'm wearing shorts in my pocket. So I didn't really want to deal with that. That's why I kind of ditched foldables, but this is just crazy. So that's why I'm really excited to try this out. But the hinge is seriously super crazy. Like, I was always scared that I was going to damage the hinge because it was so big and it's hard to cover, but I'm glad that's not the case here. Also, one thing that really impressed me already is the crease. That seems super minimal. So usually these foldables, the crease is the best when you first open it, so that's not a huge surprise. But compared to the last few foldables, even including the Flip series, Samsung's right up there with all the Chinese foldables right now. When the screen's on, it's even less noticeable, and the screen's off, you can't look for it, you can definitely see it, but like, this crease I think is the best it's ever been. Now, another thing besides the thinness and the weight that I'm excited about is the new main camera sensor. The main camera sensor is now as big as the S25 Ultra's main camera. So in terms of the main sensor from 1x to 2x, you're gonna get a lot better image results compared to old foldables. Sadly, the telephoto lens did not get an upgrade. It's the same 3x telephoto. I believe it's only 12 megapixels. I think I could pull off a lot of cool shots with this camera, even though it doesn't have the best hardware. Samsung software for the camera is actually pretty customizable, so I'm definitely going to be doing a camera guide for this phone, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay tuned for that. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm really excited about the multitasking here. Of course, the screen real estate is a lot better for two apps side by side. This is basically almost as big as an iPad mini screen. I'm kind of excited to make this like my only tablet slash laptop setup for a couple days. And I have a foldable keyboard, so I can actually try this out outside and see if it actually works for my workflow. You fold this and boom, everything can basically fit in your pocket, and that could be my only computer. So stay tuned for that video. Now, with all those things said, there are a couple of things I'm definitely worried about. So first of all, this thing only has a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. So the battery inside is lithium ion and not silicon carbon. So it's not one of those super dense big batteries that these Chinese OEMs have been pushing on their super thin foldables. So this is as thin as those Chinese foldables that are kind of leading the market right now, but the battery size is not even close. This is 4,400 milliamp hours, and a lot of Chinese foldables are getting basically past 6,000, I believe some of them are, and a lot of them are basically over 5,000. So I know One UI takes about a week to fully get used to your usage patterns and the battery will be fully optimized. So after that point, I think I can finally do a real world test video to see what the battery is actually like on a normal day. Even though this is super thin, and as you can see, the thickness is as thick as the USB-C port itself, but the charging through this little port here, it maxes out at only 25 watts. Now, even the Ultra can go up to 45 watts, and this can get a full charge in just under an hour if you have the compatible charger. With 25 watts of charging, it'll probably get you a full charge in about an hour and a half, or maybe a little less. But yeah, it is a bit of a bummer that this doesn't get any faster charging this year. Of course, I haven't had the chance to charge this thing yet, so we'll see how the charging speed actually is once we get to use it more. And last but not least is the durability. This is still a folding screen with a soft screen, and there's still a screen protector at the top, and you never know, you really don't know. Sometimes, you know, some people get super lucky, some people are very careful or not careful and their foldables are totally fine. Some people, they just get random things under their foldable display and they can take super good care of it, but some issues occur. So I'm hoping none of that happens to this phone, but we'll really have to see with long-term usage. I am still scared of this thing dropping and breaking because this is a $2,000 phone. So I definitely got a screen protector for it, and we're gonna put it on right now. Okay, that was actually pretty easy, and look how seamless it looks. So this isn't sponsored, but if you guys want a screen protector, I recommend one from Shinjimuro. This is really easy to apply. Okay, so the front cover screen is covered, but what I'm worried about is the actual case itself. So foldables always had the worst case options available because it's kind of hard to make for, because you got to accommodate for the hinge, and there's two sides, and there's not a lot of TPU options, so you kind of have to deal with hard cases. So that's why I got a bunch of cases. Yeah, so with the Fold 2, I had a tough time finding the right case for it, so I got a bunch of different options. And I also want to see if the screen protector interferes with these cases, so we're gonna test that out too. Also, Samsung released their official cases for this phone, but they weirdly only cover the back and they just provide a screen protector. Yeah, so those cases are definitely a no for me, so that's why I got a bunch of third-party ones to really test out. So the first one that I wanted to test out was this clear hard case, a two-piece that doesn't provide protection for the hinge, but I just wanted to see what a basic clear case is like. Put on the back first. Put on like that. And boom. And this is actually pretty thin. As you can see, it doesn't protect the hinge, so that's kind of exposed there, and there is no corner protection on these, but this is really thin. I think this is a really slim case a lot of people will like. And it's got this little indent at the volume buttons here, so you can kind of open it up easier. And once it's unfolded, it's kind of fully protected. But yeah, this is just a simple, clear, thin case. It's not bad. All right, next up is this TPU plus hard hybrid one-piece case. So this has little hinges on it, so it keeps it in all in one piece. And this one also doesn't deal with any stickers, so it's kind of easy to put on and off. Okay, so we're gonna go through the back here, like so, and that's it. We're gonna try closing it and see how the hinges react. So still no hinge protection here, but there is a bit more protection in the corner since this little layer and this metal hinge is kind of covering the hinge area. But still, if you drop it right on here, it's not gonna go well. This is also another pretty thin one, and since it is TPU on the sides here, I think it is a lot easier to grip. Next up is another clear hard case. This has a kickstand. So since I want to do the whole laptop keyboard setup with the Fold 7, I'm gonna go try out this clear case with a kickstand. Alright, so the camera cutouts for this are a little more exact, so it's a little harder to put on, but overall it's still also thin. It's basically almost identical to the other hard clear case, but still no hinge protection, so it's basically the same thing as the first case that we put on. But this thing does have the kickstand that is adjustable, and you can just stand it up like that. You can prop it up like this. So it's a little unstable if you try to stand it up at like a steep angle, but it works when you kind of lay it down like this. Since it actually sticks out quite a lot, this portrait orientation for like a steeper angle does work. But I would be a little scared if this is at the edge of a table, because yeah, that could happen. So kickstand cases with the kickstand kind of laid out in this horizontal orientation, I think these work. Okay, lastly, I wanted to try a regular hard case, but with hinge protection. So usually the hinge protection cases for the previous folds were super thick and super bulky because the previous folds were just thick. But this is a lot thinner, so I'm hoping this works a lot better. So let's try it out. And boom, just like that, the hinge is protected too. This one protects all 4 corners, which is great. And when you do open it, the hinge kind of pops out like that. So that might be a little annoying to some of you guys, but I'm kind of fine with that. So one thing that's kind of weird is that this hinge protection does flap on and off, and I think a lot of the options do that. And also this little piece might feel a little springy and plasticky. This is like the most protective case I've had out of all these cases. It does protect the hinge. So yeah, that's pretty much it for all the cases that I have. Let me know what kind of cases you prefer for your foldables, so maybe that'll help me out too. Now I'm actually gonna go take this thing out with me, then come back home and tell you my first real 24-hour experience with the Fold 7. Okay, it's 11:30 p.m., just about 24 hours, our real first day with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And even though the battery is still learning my usage patterns, this got through the whole day and it still has 27%, which is pretty impressive. I think my screen usage time for like this period of time is probably more around like 4 hours, but for our first day, it's not bad. Way better than I was expecting from this battery size. And my first day out with it, this thing is seriously super light. Even in my shorts pocket, I didn't really notice the difference between this and a normal phone. I was actually carrying the S25 Ultra with me in the other pocket, and this honestly felt a little heavier. So yeah, it doesn't feel like a chunky block in my pockets like what the older folds used to feel like. So that part, I'm already super satisfied with that. But one thing I will say is that the case search is still not over. So this hinge protected hard clear case, I don't think this is gonna do it for me. So already there's a lot of scratches on the case itself. The phone is completely fine, but one weird thing is when you do open it, you hear a lot of creaking. And every time you open it, you kind of have to push in these pieces here. Now, if you use the adhesive tapes that this case comes with, I'm sure it'll be a little better, but I don't want to deal with those tapes because they do leave a lot of residue. So even with the tapes or not, this is gonna have a lot of creaking. So I'm gonna go take this off right now. Now, I did expect this, but the app scaling is still a bit weird for a lot of the apps because they're not optimized for this form factor. Like Reddit here, you'll see some giant blocks only showing like 4 posts and this big of a screen, which isn't ideal. So some apps I actually prefer to kind of multitask at the same time because they look a lot better as the skinnier versions, and you get more content this way anyway. But for video playback, I was pretty impressed with the size of the screen here. It's a lot bigger than I thought. So this is pretty big even in just portrait orientation. So I feel like I'm getting a full screen experience while being able to scroll through comments. Now while the video is playing in full screen, I feel like I can just put an app on the bottom here and scroll through something else. So you're getting a full screen while being able to multitask on the other side. So I didn't do a ton of multitasking since it is my first day, so definitely gonna be doing that more throughout the next few weeks. But yeah, like I said earlier, battery life is still TBD, even though the first day was better than I thought. Still learning my usage patterns, so we'll see what the battery life's actually like in the next few weeks. And the same goes for the camera. I did take a few samples using the main lens and the telephoto. So far so good, but we really have to take more samples to get my full thoughts on it. So yeah, that's pretty much my first 24 hours with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I'm definitely going to be making a lot of videos using this phone in the next few weeks, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel for that. Let me know your thoughts on the Galaxy Z Fold 7 down in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next video.